Most AI video tools are really good at one thing, making a cool-looking clip for a few seconds. But the moment you try to turn that into an actual story, with the same character, the same tone, multiple scenes that feel connected, maybe even dialogue and music, the workflow gets messy fast. You generate visuals in one tool, animate them in another, do voice in a third, then pull everything into an editor and hope it somehow feels like one project by the end. So when I saw OpenArt Director claiming it could take a rough idea and turn it into a full cinematic video inside one workflow, I had to test it. Not just for visual quality, but for something much harder. Can it actually help you build a coherent film-style project instead of just random AI clips? And after using it for a bit, I'll be honest. This feels a lot less like prompting and a lot more like vibe directing.
If you love discovering tools that make you think, wow, that was easy, you're in the right place. We test platforms, reveal hidden features, and teach you quick ways to boost your creativity, productivity, and your content game.
Today's video is sponsored by OpenArt, and specifically their new tool called Director. This is their new conversational filmmaking workspace designed to help you build longer, more coherent AI videos through chat. So instead of treating AI video like type a prompt, generate one shot, start over, the whole idea here is that you can start with a rough concept, shape the story, define the style, refine characters, and build a multi-scene project all in one place. So in this video, I want to test exactly that. I'm going to take a rough concept, build it inside OpenArt Director, see how well it handles scene-to-scene consistency, and then talk about whether this actually feels different from the normal AI video workflow most of us are used to. So first, what is OpenArt Director? Director is basically OpenArt's new long-form AI filmmaking tool. The easiest way to describe it is this. Instead of generating isolated clips one by one, Director is built around creating an actual project. You can feed it a rough idea, a script concept, reference images, audio, music, even voice, and then shape the whole thing through conversation. It can help with the story structure, scene planning, visual direction, character continuity, and then generate a cinematic video from that project. One of the biggest differences here is that it's built for longer form output. Instead of only focusing on short clips, Director is designed for videos that can go up to several minutes, which makes it much more relevant if you want to create something that actually feels like a mini short film, a trailer, a brand ad, a music video, or a proper story-driven piece of content. And that's the part that interested me most. Not just can it make a pretty clip, but can it keep a story, style, and character coherent across a full video? Because honestly, that's where most AI video workflows still fall apart. Usually the process looks something like this. You start with an image generator, try to get the character or scene you want, move to a separate video tool to animate it, generate voice somewhere else, maybe find music in another tool, then bring everything into an editor and try to force it all together. And even if every individual piece looks good, the final result often doesn't feel unified. The character changes between scenes. The tone shifts. The pacing feels disconnected. One scene looks cinematic, the next looks like it belongs to a completely different project. That's why Director is interesting to me, because it's not trying to be just another clip generator. The whole pitch is that you're building one creative project where the story, the style, the characters, the voices, and the direction all live in the same place. So instead of constantly rebuilding the same context every time you generate something, the tool is supposed to remember what you're making and keep the whole project moving in one direction. And that's exactly what I wanted to test. So for this test, I started with a rough concept instead of a polished script because I think that's the real use case here. A lot of the time, especially with creative projects, you don't begin with every detail figured out. You might have a mood, a genre, a visual direction, maybe the outline of a story, but not a full production-ready script. That's where Director makes the most sense. Instead of trying to write one giant perfect prompt, I started with a loose cinematic concept and let the project evolve through chat. I could describe the tone I wanted, the kind of atmosphere I was going for, the pacing, the visual style, and the overall direction of the story. Then from there, I could refine it scene by scene. This is where it started feeling different from a normal AI video workflow. I wasn't really prompting in the traditional sense. I wasn't trying to squeeze every camera angle, emotion, lighting detail, and transition into one massive block of text. It felt more like I was directing the project in conversation, adjusting the mood, shaping the scenes, refining the narrative, and reacting to what I saw. And that's why I keep calling this vibe directing, because that's genuinely what the experience feels like. You start with a rough creative instinct, and then instead of manually stitching together a dozen tools, you guide the whole piece through conversation until it starts looking like the video you had in your head. From there, I could refine the scenes, adjust the overall direction, and keep pushing the project closer to the style I wanted rather than restarting from scratch every time. And I think that's the first big strength of Director. It's designed for the messy middle part of creativity, that stage where the idea exists, but the final version doesn't yet. The next thing I really wanted to look at was consistency, because that's one of the hardest parts of AI video right now. It's easy to get one great shot. It's much harder to get multiple scenes that actually feel like they belong to the same film. Same character, same world, same tone, same visual identity, same energy from beginning to end. That's where Director is aiming much higher than a normal clip-based tool. Since everything lives inside the same project, it's trying to keep the creative decisions connected across scenes instead of treating each generation like a totally separate request. So if you're building a short film, a trailer, or even a product ad with a recurring visual style, that continuity matters a lot. And that was one of the more interesting parts of using it, because the experience is much closer to shaping one evolving project than constantly starting over. You're not just generating a scene and abandoning it. You're building a piece with memory, direction, and context behind it. That matters for things like recurring characters, visual tone, dialogue moments, or just making sure the final video actually feels like a complete sequence rather than a folder full of disconnected clips. So if your goal is just to make a cool 5-second visual, there are already a lot of tools for that. But if your goal is to build something that feels like a mini production, even on a small scale, this is where Director becomes much more interesting. And I think this is the real takeaway. OpenArt Director feels different because it's designed around the workflow of making something bigger than a single shot. Most AI video tools still feel like output machines. You put something in, get a clip out, and then it's on you to figure out how that clip fits into the larger project. Director feels more like a workspace. It's trying to help with the actual filmmaking side of the process, not just generation, but story development, scene continuity, style control, character direction, and the overall structure of the piece. That doesn't mean you stop being creative. If anything, it gives you more room to be creative because you're spending less time rebuilding the same context over and over. You're not just saying, give me one cool shot. You're saying, here's the kind of film or ad or story I'm trying to make. Help me shape it, refine it, and keep it coherent. And that's why I think the phrase vibe directing fits so well here. You're not treating AI like a vending machine for random clips. You're guiding the project, reacting to what works, changing what doesn't, and steering the whole thing toward a finished video.
Every day starts the same fight. Now AI. Now AI clears the way before you even ask. Less noise, more you. Images perform and do the Zian, doing the busy work so you don't have to.
So my honest takeaway after using it is this. If you're only looking for a tool to make a single short AI clip, Director is probably more than you need. But if you're trying to create something with actual structure, a mini short film, a cinematic ad, a trailer, a story-driven promo, even a more polished brand piece, this makes a lot more sense than the typical fragmented workflow. What surprised me most wasn't just the visuals. It was the fact that the tool is built around the creative process before and between the generations, not just the final output. That matters because most of the hard part in AI video isn't getting one cool result. It's keeping the whole project coherent as it grows. And I think that's where Director feels promising. It's trying to solve the storytelling layer, the continuity layer, and the how do I actually turn this rough idea into something complete layer. Not just the rendering part. So if you're a solo creator, an indie filmmaker, someone making trailers or ads, or even just a creator who's tired of bouncing between 5 different AI tools to finish one video, this is definitely one worth testing. If you want to try OpenArt Director for yourself, I'll put my link in the description along with my 15% discount code. And if you're planning to use it seriously, the annual Wonder Plan is the most cost-effective option, so that's the one I'd look at first. Big thanks again to OpenArt for sponsoring this video. If you want me to test more AI tools like this, especially tools focused on filmmaking, editing, or longer-form content creation, let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.